Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me. My name is Tony Tubes, and I'm going to do a little something different today. I've never done before, but it's the Halloween season, and I am feeling extra spooky, and so I've been telling this story for a long time, and it's a scary story that I've told my kids numerous times, and anytime that I have ever told this story to anybody around Aberdeen, South Dakota, where I currently live, no one's ever heard about it. And it was a very, very creepy story in my life. And I wanted to put it out there to see if anybody else had ever heard of it. And also just to give you guys a little bit of a chill as to what what resides in our little neck of the woods up here in northeastern South Dakota. So, never done this before, so, welcome to Uncle Tube's Scary Stories. So this happened back in 2003, a long while ago, 20 years ago, and I actually had to reach out to my ex-girlfriend, and we kind of pieced this story together between the two of us because she was there as well, and I thank her very much for helping me out with that. Because there was a lot of little details that I kind of either misremembered or just forgot entirely. So the title of my story is simply The Murder Rock. So here we go. And some of this I have written down. So just letting you guys know, if it sounds like I'm reading it, it's because I am, because I forget things. And I have notes. Always need to have notes. So in 2003, my girlfriend and I at the time, we were living in Aberdeen. Nice little one-bedroom apartment on the south side, kind of up by Northern and such. One night, we decided to pick a direction and just drive. We wanted to go and check out the sunset, so we just picked a direction and we just drove. So we drove like southeast of Aberdeen, utilizing like country roads and whatever section lines we could traverse in my little 93 Toyota Corolla. So we drove for about an hour and 15 minutes, but we were never going above like probably 35, 45. Like we were just cruising. We weren't trying to get anywhere quick. So we were just cruising. So we were cruising for, like an hour and 15 minutes or something like that, going pretty slow. So, I mean, it's kind of hard to gauge. And we were just weaving in and out of different roads and just kind of staying in the same southeastern direction. So we were young and dumb. So there was like a fair amount of like weed smoking and booze cruising happening. We weren't by any means annihilated or anything. We were just having a good time listening to Fish and the Grateful Dead and stuff. So we pulled over and found a good spot to like park our car and watch the sunset. It was a very romantic experience. Adding to the mix of like a great buzz, we decided to wander around this tree line that was nestled between two farming fields. So we pulled over, we watched the sunset. It was awesome. South Dakota sunsets, man, they're amazing. And then we decided to, kind of traverse over in this tree line a little bit. We were in the mood, I'll say, and looking for a private setting in case some old farm boys decided to come and play Deliverance, the home game with the city folk, So we were kind of cruising around this tree line looking for a private spot. And I remember we were heading towards like a downed tree that looked sturdy enough to support our future activities. And it was getting very dark at this point though. But all of a sudden we came across this rock, and it was like something out of the entrance of Storybook Land back in the day. They had all those big rocks you could climb around on, just solid one rock, and you could definitely tell this rock was not indigenous to this tree line. Like it had been placed there. This rock had no business being where it was. It was in the middle of a field in a little tree line and stuff. And if you've ever been to northeastern South Dakota, yeah, you know what I'm talking about. There's no reason a massive fucking rock could be out in the middle of nowhere like that. It had been placed there. So we decided to take our lustful activities out on top of this rock. And it was honestly a very crazy and cool experience. I won't get into it, but it was a lot of fun. But when all was said and done, we were having a post-smoke, and we see a single light coming towards us with like a low rumble. And it's like getting closer and closer and closer. And we're like, what the fuck is this? Like, what's going on? Oh God, here they come. But it was a man on a four-wheeler. And we were like, at this point, we were like equal parts embarrassed and terrified. Like, what is this guy going to do? What did he think or know we were doing in here? Like, what the fuck? But the jig was up, and we were in no shape to be doing any cardio out of there, running away from this dude. At least I wasn't. But by the time we knew exactly what was coming towards us, we hear this like little sweet old man voice. He's like, are you kids all right in there? And we're like, we're good, man. What are you guys doing out here? And we're like, we just stopped to watch the sunset, man. And we were just kind of hanging out and having some alone time, and he's like, well, this is my land, right? And we're like, yeah, we didn't know that, sir, but we're really sorry. We weren't trying to cause any trouble. And he was like, it's fine. I just wanted to make sure everything was all right out here. Didn't know if any trouble was going on. He laughs and we laugh, and we're standing like kind of at the edge of the tree line at this point. And this like sweet little old man, he was like, dude, he was like no younger than 85. This guy was, but he was still spry, old farmer dude. But he was seriously old. But he was like, did you see the rock in there? And I was like, yeah, it's pretty big, And he goes, yeah, well, that rock has a history, I tell you. And I was like, well, you need to fucking tell me now. Like, what's going on with this rock? And so he told us this story. And I'm going to try my best to, put it together the way he did. So he goes, well, in 1855, my daddy was 10 years old. He and my grandma and grandpa and his two sisters were a part of a wagon train traveling the California Trail. And the wagon train had around 75 people traveling with it. So, shortly after crossing into Wyoming territory, they had to travel through a small mountain range. They decided to set up camp about halfway through. My daddy said it was next to a beautiful running creek and was very easy on the eyes. He said he remembered some of the other travelers remarking and joking that they wanted to stay there instead of pressing on and just build a life there because it was so beautiful. And so they camped out there that night. That night, while everybody was asleep, they were awakened to a woman's scream. When the men got up to see what was going on, they came to find that the two men who were keeping watch over the camp were missing. And they heard the scream again and ran towards the direction which was this beautiful creek that they came upon earlier. So they ran towards the creek, and they found one of the men's wives standing over their dead bodies in the water. Both of them were dead. And a man had her from behind and had a bayonet to her throat. And before any words were spoken, the men realized that they were surrounded by close to 30 men, bandits, and they had the drop on them. They shot most of the men where they stood right then and there, taking only a few as leverage over the other people on the wagon train. For the next hour or two, these bandits took turns walking the women and children into the woods and raping, torturing, and eventually killing them on a rock that they found. A big rock that they found. My daddy's two sisters, he said, were chosen together as they stood there holding each other in terror. They were only 12 and 13. And when my daddy, only being about 10 years old, protested, they gave him a quick beating and he got knocked out. And when he came to and he was able to get up, his sisters were gone. The old man said, my daddy said there was only about 20 of them left in the whole wagon train. Little did they all know, a group of Arapaho Indian hunters were close by and heard the screams. While the bandits were busy doing these horrible, terrible things to these people, they were unaware of what was to come next. The old man said, my daddy said he doesn't think they ever knew what hit them. The Arapaho dispatched them so quickly that not even my daddy quite knew what was going on until it was over. The 20 of them were saved by this tribe. Out of the 75 people in that wagon train, only one adult woman survived. She died on the way to the nearest fort. He said my daddy's entire family was murdered, so he was taken back to Missouri to live with his relatives. He said that his father could never truly stop hearing the screams of the women and other children from that night. Well, some years later, his father was down on his luck working for a traveling sideshow. Penniless, he had an idea. So he went back to where it all had happened. He found that same picturesque creek where his family was slaughtered, and he found the rock. After 15 years, it still had a small red hue to it from all the blood that was spilled on it all those years ago. Stained in terror is what he said. Guy said, so my daddy used his mules and some ingenuity, and he picked up that rock and he hauled it away. And he spent the next 25 years of his life traveling around with that rock as a sideshow attraction. Come and see the murder rock. And he made a decent amount of money off of people coming to see the attraction. Over the years, it had a few names as he traveled. Rape Rock, Blood Rock. But he found that Murder Rock was the one that stuck. So he traveled around showing people the Murder Rock. So after the years went by and he saved enough money, he wanted to retire and buy a piece of land. So he bought a little piece of land somewhere in the southeast of Aberdeen. Somewhere down there, this guy bought some land and he dropped the murder rock on his land, probably in what he planted or what he knew was going to be a big tree line and stuff. He dropped this thing right there, and the property changed hands all the way down to his son, and his son was this 85 to 90-year-old man that came upon us. And so that rock has been sitting there for about 100 years now, and I have no idea where it's at. You know, he got done with his story. We were both kind of freaked out because of what just the events that happened up until this guy told us this story. So we got back in our car and we took off, and we were both silent the whole way home. And we just weaved our way back to the highway at some point in time. All I know is we exited onto the highway going back at a different location than we turned off of the highway to get out there. So I don't know where the fuck we were at, man. It was the middle of the night. I was a little fucked up, and I just got done having this story told to me. And it was very, very interesting. So somewhere down southeast of Aberdeen is a rock sitting in a tree line, and it's the murder rock. And that guy is dead. That old man's dead. You know, there's no way that guy is still alive. Like, he was in his 80s. He'd be over 100. I don't know. Maybe he is alive. But I've been out there a couple times trying to find it in the daytime. But shit looks different. And I didn't pay attention enough to how I got out there the first time. That I've been out there 3 or 4 times in my life since then trying to find the murder rock. And I've come up like zeros every time. But somewhere southeast of Aberdeen is a tree line with this rock. And 20 to 30 people were murdered. Women and children were murdered and had all sorts of terrible shit happen to them on this rock. And yeah, so that's out there. And I want to find the murder rock. So if anybody knows this story or thinks they know, like maybe, you know, whose land that might have been, who it changed hands with, where it's at, anything. If you have any idea as to where the murder rock is at, please reach out, because it's almost as fucked up as when I lived in Topeka, Kansas for a little while, and then I left, and like a year later I find out that like not 7 miles from where I laid my head in Topeka, Kansas, there was supposedly a cemetery where the gates of hell were. Like I heard this on some weird, you know, internet thing. I'm like, and I guess it's a thing, like supposedly the gates of hell are at this cemetery like 7 miles from Topeka, Kansas and shit. And it's like, I want to go see that right fucking now. Why can't we go see that? When we lived in Redfield, there's there's like the witch's house or something out there. I don't remember what the hell they called it. But yeah, so it's like cool stuff like that. I want to see the murder rock again. Because if that's a true fucking story, man, that's fucked. Like, I'm sorry. But I really think that old man was being genuine, dude. You know? It was very, very interesting, and he was very detailed. And, yeah. So, that's the story of the murder rock. And I hope you guys enjoyed it. But yeah, I'm Tony Tubes. And I usually do comedy, stand-up comedy. So if you're in the Aberdeen area and you want to see some of that, I do it every last Sunday of the month at the Heartland Casino in Aberdeen, South Dakota, at Hub City Station is what it's called. It's right across 6th Avenue from like Wendy's and stuff. The Heartland Casino. It's a really, really nice little comedy club they have in there. And they put on a lot of different stuff, but we also bring in comedians from out of town a lot, and then I'll open for some of them. So it's a really good time. Hub City Station and Event Center in the Heartland Casino in Aberdeen. Come see me the last Sunday of every month as I host the open mic. Bring your own talents down there. But yeah, so it's just, this is a little spooky story that I've told my kids before and everything, and I was happy to share it with the people of Aberdeen right now and the world. The world. So have fun. And if anybody knows anything about the murder rock, please let me know, because I want to go see the murder rock again. So have a good day, everybody. Be safe. Be kind. Give anybody that comes to your door on Halloween a piece of candy, even if they're serving papers. So be kind, everybody. Have a good day. Stay spooky.